Welcome back to First Issues, where on tonight's installment, we unpack the 2025-2026 national budget allocations at the FNBB Budget Review Seminar. While the budget announcement outlined key priority areas for government in the coming fiscal year, what lessons can be drawn from other peer African countries who've done well in economic transformation, expansion and growth to help Botswana reach her economic development goals? We are now joined by Research Lead Global Markets at Rand Merchant Bank South Africa, Samantha Singh Jani. Samantha, thank you so much for coming on First Issues and affording us your time. We are here to unpack the 2025-2026 national budget for Botswana, right? So in your presentation earlier, you were talking about learning from our peers, right? So what key lesson do you think that Botswana could actually learn from, other economies in Africa if we are to be successful in our endeavor to be a high income status economy?
So firstly, thanks for having me. And I think on the side of Botswana, just looking at potential diversification, we have a lot of countries that have taken on the technology route, so just embracing digital. There's a lot of innovation, there's financial inclusion, and I think countries like Rwanda and Kenya stand out quite a bit, especially, you speak to anyone on the continent and beyond, they know what M-Pesa is and they know where it came from. So I think there's a lot that we could leverage from the continent. Firstly, the digital space, but then also things on renewables. A lot of countries are working on renewables, including the likes of Morocco and some closer to home, just to secure energy.
But Sam, what do you think that our government is not particularly paying specific attention to, that you feel they should, that would help us reach that same status?
I think Botswana doesn't maybe take advantage of being a investment grade credit, and I think financing would come very easy to Botswana as long as they have the right projects and priorities in place. I think investors would be very keen to throw funds here as long as they understand where it's going and that it's going to develop the productive sectors of the economy. So I think Botswana probably needs to market itself a little bit more, and I don't think it's going to be difficult for those investment flows to come through.
Botswana for the longest time now has been talking about diversifying away from mining. But in your opinion, what do you think it would take or what needs to happen to be able to effectively and efficiently pivot away from mineral wealth?
I think it starts with government, but it doesn't end there. So it starts with government putting policies in place to help investment come through. That's one. And I mentioned projects earlier, so choosing the right projects, but also to involve the private sector a lot more. It's been a struggle, I think, on the continent sometimes to let go. But I think private sector is obviously key for investment to come through. There's various examples on the continent where that would work. So you kind of have to look at that and say, bring it home. Is this going to work for Botswana? And I think in most sectors it can work. So whether it is in the digital economy, technology, away from mining, even if it's not too much away. So we've got countries like Nigeria where it's a big oil economy, but they're now they're refining their oil and selling that. So it's not too much of diversification too soon, but at least it's a pivot in the right direction.
Speaking to your last point, right, realistically, how feasible is all of this that you're proposing, and what time frames might we be looking at?
So it's difficult because diversification doesn't happen overnight, so you do need to start somewhere, and I think it's better late than never. So wherever your starting point is, I mean, it takes sometimes decades to get to where you want to be. So I think if you have the right processes and procedures in place and buy-in from the communities, the government, your investor base, it could happen in a fairly short amount of time. By that, I mean a decade, where there's, you know, a lot more diversification in the economy. But I think it takes decades for it to be truly a diversified economy.
We have come to the end of this segment of the program, but please note that efforts will be made to have dialogue with other speakers from the seminar, as they too had immense insights to share. And with that, thank you for watching First Issues.